Helen, and welcome everybody who's come to enjoy this celebration.
Thank you, Jo. And I'm just going to get this out of the way. Thank you, Lara. Thank you, Jo. And thank you to the gallery. It's the best place. And I've worked with a lot of galleries. And there's integrity and it's straight up and down like I like to do business. The older I get, the straighter I want it. So it's nice and clean and tidy. So anyway, you know, like in regards to business dealings. And that's going to take me into what I want to say about the exhibition. I don't really want to tell you much. I want you to talk to me and ask me things and have a conversation. So first of all, though, I've had a couple of, what's this about? That's the usual question. And look, I've been in my past history as a painter. I've painted all sorts of things. I do change because, as we were just discussing, that's what being creative is about. I'm a bit of an arrogant bugger, and that means that often when you come up with a really great style as an artist, you get pigeonholed, and if everybody loves the painting that you've done, it's on. The gallery says, oh, just paint another 500 like that, the same, because we sold that, and everybody loved it. And the clients say, I want that one, but someone's bought it. Can you get me another one exactly the same? An original, exactly the same, but I want one exactly the same, a copy of that one. And the artist goes, oh my God, I've got to pay the bills. I could do 500 more copies of that. I don't even have to think. I just got to go like a robot. I might even project the same one onto the canvas, you know. And so that is where the relationship gets really weird as an artist, being creative, and being creative is strange. The gallery gets confused because they want, you know, when they've got their heart in the right place, they want to see creativity coming out, they want to see something exciting, and you know, the best operators want that. The artist ends up feeling like a sausage factory, and I've been in that position, and it's my own problem because I think, oh, you know, greed takes over. I know I can sell these paintings, I'm just going to, and you know, the clients. And look, over the years, I keep taking risks, and I'm not trying to pump myself up here, but when I first changed my style, I first started painting just the natural world, birds and flowers, and I changed my style, and I started to get a bit harder, and I painted my first really serious series, which was the Jandamurra, or pigeon series, from the Kimberley, and it was really pretty confronting. And I had people come to me, this was years and years ago, say, I don't like what you've done. I think you should I like what you used to do, which was, you know, I was all 2 years into my career. And others went, oh, that's just confronting. And then others said, this is genius, you know. So this is what happens. And so over the years, I just think that you've got to take a risk, whether you're an artist or not. And I know not everybody wants to do that. We do need the conservationists in the world. But if you're in a creative industry, take risks. You know, like bring your audience with you. Even in your own life, if you're not an artist, it's the same thing. So this work here is, you know, some people said, well, that's different, but it's not really. I mean, I've got some classic works, which are quite, you know, I can paint classical, and that's just how I felt. And then there's some more colourful works over here, which are a lot looser. But the whole point of why I got to this, if you look at some of the titles, someone in the room was saying, I love your titles, they're just so funny. And I said, that's really strange because they're just logical. You know, tractor show, dog with hut, purple dog with magpie, cabbage woman, you know. And I think that brings me to the next point, and that is that somehow or another, as I'm getting a little bit older, you know, I've always been a complicated thinker, and you know, and I think, oh, why is life so difficult? But you sort of start to see that I need to know everything that's going on. I need to know all about the bad things. I study geopolitics every day. I can't stop it. You know, it's just an obsession. But you start to realise that the only way that you can actually step forward and get up in the morning, knowing all this stuff, is you start to choose, and you know that. You know, if you choose, I have to be aware. So here's the point. There's a painting out the front, and there's this one here. And I didn't do it in a lot of the paintings, but it's in here. So we've got this lovely veranda scene, and everything's quite nice, but there's this sneaky serpent-looking thing, and the cat is quite aware. So it's almost saying to know about the evil of life, the lurking evil. It's always there. But despite it, this maturity thing is where you go, it's lurking, but I'm going to go and plant some flowers anyway. Go on, come at me, snake. So it's sort of a feeling that you get. And I think that why it's important to start seeing life, if you want to, that is, in a more simple and straight way, is just see things for just, I know people here will probably laugh at me, but it's a lesson for me, to see things as they actually are. It's just as they really are. And there's so much good stuff, you know? Like I live in my head, a lot of my younger years in my head, creating stories and narratives and things like that. But when you start to see the beauty of the world around you and you hold the tension of all the darkness and the carry on, it changes how you operate in life. And so, for example, if I just said, oh, I can see all that bad stuff and I'm going to ignore it. I'm just going to not pay any attention to it. What happens when my son comes to me and says, you know, I've got this big problem. Now, if I'm not aware of that, I can't be, you know, have any empathy for his problem. So it's you know, it's by leading by example, saying, well, you know, all right, there's all this stuff here, but you can choose to go on this path. And that's probably what I've done with these works. I've chosen to take a path that's optimistic. It's in the present. It's loving nature, animals, nature, landscape. You know, that's really, to me, the most grounding force on earth. All these humans and their complicated problems, and yet you go and you get near an animal or a tree, and there's nothing going on. You know, there's nothing going on. It is what it is. I'm hungry, or I need some water. You know, so it's sort of really animals and plants and nature are a really grounding force. And if we can get a bit of that into ourselves, despite being incredibly beautiful, complex creatures, I don't know, it just seems to carry you a long way, you know. So I don't want to tell you so. I want a couple of questions. Can someone hit me? Anything? Just go on. The line question.
The line question.
Give me the line.
The variety was what initially
Yes.
surprised me. That we've got your kind of more historic side, and then this kind of wonderful colour on that side, and it was kind of, does it do your head in? You know, what happens to you?
Oh, that's a good question. We had a little chat about this before, and I confess I set her up.
Yeah.
So, but look, when I was talking about creativity, I mean, I work very intensely when I'm working on a project. I mean, I think there's, you know, obsessive creative people tend to do that, and I get extremely bored with mediums, myself, the room, everything. And so what I do is, when I start going down a rabbit hole and I might be painting a classic sort of work, I just lose perspective. And so what I do if I'm under pressure, if I'm not under pressure, I just go and sit on the couch and watch TV. But if I'm under, not really, but if I'm under pressure and I have to perform and meet a commitment, I change mediums and styles, and what it does is it seems to break me out of it, because when you change the medium, like an oil medium works incredibly different to using acrylic or watercolour, and it just completely throws me out of where I was, and then I break through, I do some mad stuff, and then that's about being creative, about switching around, and it's still the same kind of content, but yeah, I like to play. And it's just hard because if you play too much, you know, you can confuse people, but hopefully it holds in the room. Okay. And is that okay?
Well, yeah, I was wondering, does one influence the other at all?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
In your head it's happening. Yeah.
I think that everything influences me, you know, like not just paint.
I just meant the experience of doing
Yeah.
something that's like this and then going to something like that.
Well, I actually don't think, I used to think a lot about it. I don't now, because that seems to be a bit of an indulgence.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying to work more instinctively and just go with what's happening, let the medium almost dictate what's coming out. And my eye might catch a glimpse of something on one painting, and I think, oh, there's just that little piece that I can make a whole painting out of. So that's generating ideas from ideas, and on it goes. I think we get inspiration from every single thing in the world. My sketchbook is full of political drawings, where I kill all the ones I don't want. And I think, oh.
Did you bring that along with you?
No.
No.
It's the Rachel treasure. Well, that's some really good ideas.
But this works, it's lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Any other questions?
Where's all the settings, like the farm with the sheep? Is that Margaret River or?
Actually, I spent some time down here. Where is it? What part of the year are we in? April. So last year, I was doing some house sitting and walking along the river every day. Yeah, and I actually took a lot of sketches and photos and ideas, and I had, I've called it Doofa, but his name was Rufus, I think. Was him. So, but and I've used those impressions and images from Margaret River, a lot of them. Yeah. So yes. Yeah.
I find them incredibly soothing in this world.
Oh,
we live in.
good.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're quite soothing.
Yeah.
They're very natural, and the animals are so expressive and real, and like with their own personality.
Yes.
Which would be quite hard to do in a painting.
Well, thanks for that, because soothing is good, because I used to try and I remember Philip Adams came to an exhibition with the exhibition was called The New World Order, Is God a Duck Shooter? So I didn't used to want to provoke anyone, and that was in Sydney. It sold out before it even opened, but Philip Adams, the radio guy, he opened it and he said to me, this is why I'm telling you, there's a reason I'm telling you this, he said to me, he's quite a private person as far as he doesn't like opening exhibitions, even though he's a radio person, and he said, you know what I like about your, he said, you know what I like about your paintings? He said, you just get in there and they look so delicious and lovely and you're having a really good time, and then a big sledgehammer hits you over the back of the head. And that was what I used to do, is try and get a real stack of ulterior motives and meaning, and I still can't, I do like to do that a little bit. The one out the front, the picnic painting, which is in the front window, is loaded with symbols of, danger. And, so there was a picture I saw in on ABC the other day, and it was a little girl standing, it was out in the country, typical wheat belt type country, a little pretty girl dressed up, little tiny one, in her bestest, really pretty. And she was standing there smiling for the camera. Mum was taking a photo. And she took the photo of the mum, and they didn't see it till later. But when they looked, I don't know if anyone saw it, but there was a great big king brown snake right next to her. And I thought, and the mum didn't even know until the snake looked at the photo. So that epitomised what I'm trying to say in the picnic, and I would have laced it through more, but I thought I just don't get too rough on them. Steady on. So thanks for that. That's really great, because it would be nice to just know that the paintings actually just make you feel good. That's a good thing. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Animals seem to be such a big focus in your paintings.
Yes. Yeah.
What is it about animals that lights you up?
Oh, they're just so uncomplicated. They're just so easy to read. They're just, and I think that like I was saying before, it's where you can go. They're like your grounding. It's like a grounding wire. You go to the animals will always, it's a cliche, but the unconditional love is always there. They're the greatest healing thing. I really worry about people that don't get animals. And you usually, I don't want to offend anyone in the room, because beautiful people make choices when they get older not to have animals, so they can travel, because they're such devoted animal people, and they say, no, I'm not getting a pet because I'll worry if I go away. But the people sorry, I've got to say it, that I just look at your nose, that I know that just can't deal with animals. There was one guy in particular who I was sitting on the couch with, and my cat was sitting behind him, and he said, "What's that noise?" I said, "She's purring." And he was a bloody narcissist, So usually that kind of works. Something about they don't get the animal thing. I don't know. So that's not me. I like groundedness. See this woman here? That's what I relate to. In the garden, the shuttle, the dog, and so it's just. I just guess I'm just being me. What I like. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. What about any other questions? Oh, come on!
No question, not a question, but I really appreciate all of your Kimberley colours and your Kimberley artwork as well. I really.
Yeah, you mean from the past?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, we were chatting about the colours in that work, and when I was living there, I was in Broome for 13 years and also in the Kimberley at other periods, and people used to say to me, I didn't finish the conversation, I just remember now, and Melbourneites, you know, they'd come and they came to the gallery because we used to have the direct flights from Broome, Melbourne sort of through Alice to Broome, and they'd say, oh, it's real. You know, we used to look at your paintings on the, you know, thing and say, oh, she's off the planet, you know, and they come and the colours are just amazing, you know, and it was real. And I think that was an incredibly good stimulation for me as a young, you know, starting a younger artist, because it just provided you with an instant, really natural brilliance. And when you start to look around, you see it everywhere, you know, you just, some days there's no colour and other days there's a lot of colour in the sky. Yeah, you see things differently. Yeah, lovely. Well, is that enough waffling? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. So yeah, it just represents me seeing life a little bit more simply and appreciating it, despite all the little dark corners that still exist. So I hope that translates to you. Thanks. Okay.